I hope that the camera is in focus now. I gotta buy a new one because really this camera's only use is to take photographs and not actually film things for me. But I digress. No, I don't digress. I just need to stop talking. Alright, so I'm a day late on this, but forgive me. That's all I can say. Alright, so distributed by Artisan Entertainment, produced by Haxon Films, directed and written by Eduardo Sanchez and Daniel Merrick, and starring Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard, and Michael Williams as fictional versions of themselves. The Blair Witch Project, which came out in 1999, follows the story of three documentary film students who go into the woods of Burkittsville, Maryland, in order to videotape a project for their class about a local legend known as the Blair Witch. 1 year later, their footage was found. That's the basic plot of this movie, and that is all you need to know going into it. Actually, it's not all you need to know going into it. See, first off, cover. Oh look, Walmart sticker that completely ruined this entire thing. I probably should have left it on. Walmart is not sponsoring this video. Also because Walmart is the one who provided that camera for me. But that's because I'm a cheap son of a bitch, but whatever. Alright, so you don't need to go into the Blair Witch Project only knowing that it's about three documentary film students who go into the woods and get lost, and then 1 year later their footage is found. That's not all the story that goes into this movie. See, this film came out in '99, and at that time the internet was not the way it is now. The internet was kind of booming a little bit. The producers at Haxon Films, which includes the writer and director Daniel Merrick and Eduardo Sanchez, and the other producers on this movie, I'm not going to name them off, but I'm going to name the ones that are here. Greg Hale and Robin Cowie, or Cow. And I'm pretty sure there's a fifth member on the commentary for that movie. Yes, the found footage movie has a commentary, but I'll get into that in a sec. So those four guys, Greg Hale, Robin Cowie, Daniel Merrick, and Eduardo Sanchez, they're all producers in Haxon Films, and one other person whose name I can't remember. I'm sorry, guy. I'll put an annotation here and put your name, because that's what I do. Alright, they decide to use the internet as... They decided to use the internet as a ways of getting this movie publicly out there. They came up with this whole legend for this fictional thing known as the Blair Witch. Yes, the Blair Witch is not real. It's this fictional character, it's this fictional myth within the movie that they made up. They made up this entire mythology to it, and you can find it on the BlairWitch.com website. Not the one for the new movie. The website is... Actually, yes, it's the BlairWitch.com. Those guys produced the website, and you go on there, and you can get all the backstory for this movie. You get to find missing persons photos of Josh and Heather and Mike. You can read Heather's journal. You go on to the special features of the DVD here, and you can also find a special feature on there called The Curse of the Blair Witch. It's this 45, maybe 50-minute thing that aired on the Sci-Fi Channel about a week or two before the movie was released. And if you watched it in '99 before you went to go see the movie in theaters, you would have gotten the entire mythology of the Blair Witch in memory. So really how this movie was advertised, it was advertised as this real movie. Not a real movie, but like this real compiled footage of actual missing people, and you get to watch it. And about, I'm going to say 40% of the people who went to see this movie in theaters actually believed that the events of this movie actually took place. The events of this movie, they thought all of this was real and actually happened. And I will sadly admit, I was one of those people. I didn't see this until maybe I was 10 years old, and 10 or 11 years old, and I remember thinking I actually watched a snuff film. I thought I actually watched the last few moments of these people who went missing in the woods. But that was just because I didn't look up the movie. nowadays I look up movies just so I can if I can figure out if I want to waste my time with them or not. I try not to do that now. I try to. Good God. So I went to this movie, The Blair Witch Project, completely blind, and I thought it was an actual snuff film, and I was legitimately scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. So in '99, when this movie was released, you were either one of three audiences. You were either A, people who knew all about the mythology from the website, you saw on the internet, and then when advertisement came out that this movie was coming to theaters, you're like, oh my god, it was real. The internet didn't lie. It was real. And then you go see the movie. Or your audience member number two who went into this movie due to the hype and thought, okay, people are saying this is actual real footage from missing people. You went to go see it, or you see the reviews and they say it's the scariest thing they've ever seen in their entire life. As says Peter Travers of Rolling Stone, it's scary as hell, and all these other blurbs on the back here. So you're probably the second audience member who read that or saw that, and you go see it. You probably thought the movie either sucked or it scared you, and then you found the website. You got the whole mythology to the Blair Witch, and you're like, okay, then you get the mythology. Or your audience member number three, which is probably a majority of people who just went to see the movie and the movie itself. You never got the whole mythology for the Blair Witch, and you either walked out of it scared as hell because you thought it was real, or you're like a majority of the people who walked out of the theater and were pissed the fuck off that they watched something that they wasted money watching a movie that they could have probably made in their own backyard. That's most people, I would think. Well, most people who I've talked to, they didn't really like the movie that much. So you're either one of those three audiences. If you basically, the Blair Witch Project created the term alternate reality game. For those of you who don't know what an alternate reality game is, check out Marble Hornets, or check out Tribe 12 or Everman Hybrid. 417. Okay. Sorry, Mike. Alright, so, an ARG is an alternate reality game, and basically, there are my alarms. I'm leaving this in. No, I'm not editing that out. You all just witnessed my alarms going off and me looking like a fucking idiot. No, I'm just gonna let it roll. Let it roll. Okay. Alternate reality game, ARGs, is when you're watching a movie, you're about to go see a movie, but leading up to the movie, you have all these tie-ins. You have all these things that you can find on TV or the internet, and basically, they all tie in with the movie. For example, the movie Cloverfield. For those of you who remember when that came out in 2008, you could go to the movie's website and you can find the Twitter accounts of all the people who are in the movie, the 6 main characters. You can also go onto a website for a company that the main character, Rob, was working at, and you get to find out what that company was doing, and you kind of see that the company is technically responsible for what happened in Cloverfield. It's basically what happens in this movie, basically. These guys, Haxton Films, the producers, writers and directors in this movie, they came up with this elaborate way of trying to tell more of the story without having to actually use the film itself. It's kind of like, it's an interesting concept that was brand new at the time, and I think it stands out to this day. They used it for the 10 Cloverfield Lane movie, and they, I believe they just did it again with the new Blair Witch movie. There's a Facebook page called Finding Lisa Arlington, and there's a Twitter account. I'll get into that when I do the review for the actual Blair Witch movie that just recently came out. I'll get to that soon. But you understand what I mean. So if you watch the Blair Witch Project without watching any of this other stuff, you will be okay. Because the movie gives you enough to understand what's important. The movie gives you enough to understand what happens near the end of the movie. Because stuff gets real at the end. or not. It depends on how you look at it. What's good about this movie is it's ambiguous. It does ambiguity. You get it. Annotation here. Spell it. Definition. There. Ambiguity. Whatever. Oh my god. Alright, so it does ambiguous stuff well. And it keeps you in the dark, keeps you guessing, and you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes throughout the movie you think maybe it's something supernatural. Maybe it's actually just people fucking with them in the woods. And that could potentially be the case because that's what's actually happening behind the scenes. It's literally just the writers, producers, and directors of this movie just giving the cameras to these three actors who are basically just told improv. They're giving like these little notes each day on what their character is doing on this day. And basically what you see on camera, what you see when watching a movie, that's all improv from these three actors. And basically all the weird shit that's happening, it's just the creators of this movie and their friends just in the background behind trees and woods, snapping sticks, throwing stones while they're sleeping. They're setting stuff up. It's fucking hilarious. Watch the movie and then watch the movie with commentary and then watch the movie again. It's a fucking comedy. And I will say, in terms of whether this movie still works to this day, I'm going to say no. See, this movie is less cinematic. It feels more authentic because nothing in this movie is cinematic at all. There's only maybe a few things that are cinematic near the end, but overall, with this movie, if there's no plot development, there's no character arcs, there's no like Heather needs to overcome her fears or Josh needs to learn how to not be an ass or something. I don't know. There's nothing like that. It's not like there's a subplot going on between Josh or Heather. There was supposed to be, but the writers got rid of that last minute. But I'm not going to delve into that. But basically, it's less cinematic and it's less jump scares. Thankfully, it's less jump scares. Found footage movies nowadays are nothing but jump scares. They do less to try to give you suspense and scare you, and they just like to go, Blair! Blair! Ah! Like that. Sorry, did you see my inside of my mouth? No, just kidding. Alright, so overall, what I could say about this movie, for the improv that the actors do, it's fairly well. I actually thought they were legitimately scared. There's a few instances where they do stuff that doesn't really match with what a human would do. There's like a scene where Mike, after 5 days in the woods, is just like going like this in the woods, and well, I think even though I've never been lost in the woods myself or have been starving to death, well, I'm starving right now, but that's not the point. I've never been lost in the woods by myself and starving for food to an extent, but I don't. Doing this after 5 days, that's like something someone in a padded cell would do, but again, I'm not a psychology major. You never know what people can do after a certain amount of hours or days when they're all alone by themselves and they haven't had human contact with anyone else but the people they are with in the woods. So overall, I will say the improv from these actors is pretty good. I will say the mythology of the witch, which you can look up on the internet, and you can find on the special features again on this DVD. There's also an interactive thing on the DVD where you can literally just skip through, read, then watch the movie, and then you got the whole mythology. But again, you don't need to know the mythology if you watch the movie. I would say the mythology is written well. I will say it's believable. The whole mythology of the Blair Witch. It makes you think this could potentially happen. But at the same time, will I say the writing of the actual film itself, what we watched, the whole 87 minutes, is that correct? Yes, 87 minutes according to the back of the DVD of the movie. Is the film, can stand on its own without the mythology? I will say yes to an extent, because some stuff is set up in a weird pace, or like characters do weird things, but again, that could just be due to improv, so it's 50-50 with the whole acting and the whole writing thing. There's not a lot of whole production design with this movie, because it takes place in the woods, but I will say there are a few locations in the beginning that are interior and exterior. I don't think they needed a whole lot of setup for it, or blocking for that, but They look alright. I will give away, there is a location near the end of the movie, and I will say that the design for that, which I'm pretty sure is the only thing throughout this entire movie that the creators of this movie had to carefully design and construct in a way for the audience who have read the mythology and who haven't read the mythology to look at the film and understand what's going on. The production design for that is pretty good. There's not really a soundtrack to this movie. There's no music throughout. There's maybe like a 3-minute piece during the end credits. There's maybe a few music bits in between when I'm driving around in a car. There is a soundtrack for this movie, by the way. It ties in with the movie, and the soundtrack is basically just one of the students' mix CDs or mixtapes, and it's just music they had on their tapes that was left in the car when they went missing. That's all the soundtrack for the movie is. If you find it, I'm pretty sure it's still out there somewhere, selling on eBay or Amazon or something. So I guess soundtrack is okay. I don't know what's on the soundtrack, but I'll check it out. My God. Cinematography for a found footage movie. Oh God. This is one of the first earliest examples of an actual found footage movie, so obviously camera shakes and blurs like this and goes, ugh. So you may get motion sickness. I'm sorry if I made you sick by doing that. I'm sorry if the camera's out of focus. I'm sorry if the audio is not picking up right now. The camera sucks. I gotta buy a new one. I'll stop complaining about that. But overall, I would definitely say I recommend watching this movie. I would definitely say if you haven't seen this review... Oh my God, that's stupid. Okay. Listen to this review if you have, and if you haven't seen the movie, go ahead and give it a watch. Give it a rent. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a buy, but I will say I found this at Walmart for $5. I'm not trying to product placement Walmart, but I'm just letting you know you can find that movie for $5. If I'm not mistaken, it's still airing on Sci-Fi Channel due to the release of the new movie Blair Witch. So I would definitely say record it if you have a DVR and just watch it. Definitely give it a watch. And again, you don't need to know the mythology for the first film. You only need to know the mythology of the Blair Witch if you're going to watch this movie. I'll get to that soon. Thank you for watching, and click on to the next video if you want to watch the review for Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. Oh boy, this is going to be a joy to talk about.